The Old Lineage. Carlos Castaneda described the old lineage as belonging to the old seers. These seers lived far in the distant past, centuries or perhaps even millennia before the Spanish conquest. True to their epoch, they were hardcore fundamentalists. Living in migrating tribes and small agrarian settlements, theirs was a very physical existence. As Castaneda and psychologist Ken Wilber suggest, our early lineage ancestors may have had much less of a sense of self than we do, allowing them to merge with their surroundings. In the Ouroboros state, man, quote, swims about in his instincts like an animal, enfolded and upborne by great Mother Nature, rocked in her arms, he is delivered over to her for good or ill. These early shamans' intuitive senses ruled. They read the signs of nature. They knew when the rains would come, where the herds would be, what messages lay in the wind. Austrian philosopher Rudolf Steiner agrees. He said, "At the height of this culture, there were seers, clairvoyants, and powerful magicians who worked by means of magical forces and were able to see into the spiritual world." And philosopher Jean Gebser writes, "Here lies the basis of all sorcery and magic, such as rainmaking, ritual, and countless other forms." Magicians possessed not only powers of second sight and divination, they were also highly telepathic. In seeking transformation outside of the boundaries of normal perception, these seers chose to achieve it through very physical means. They fasted for long periods of time, lived off the ground in trees, buried themselves alive and in caves to disrupt their natural cycles, and could perceptually, and some say physically, shapeshift into other life forms, such as animals. Later, as their consciousness grew, so did their sense of self and ego. In The Power of Silence, Don Juan tells Carlos, "Ancient man knew, in the most direct fashion, what to do and how best to do it. But because he performed so well, he started to develop a sense of selfness, which gave him the feeling that he could predict and plan the actions he was used to performing. And thus the idea of an individual self appeared, an individual self which began to dictate nature and the scope of man's actions." Imbued now with self-importance, some early seers bent nature to their will and harnessed it against their fellow man. Others used their reckless drive for power in search of new worlds, ultimately becoming trapped within them. In essence, they were too close to their struggle for power over other people. As Don Juan described, after centuries of dealing with power plants, the most enterprising of them learned to see, but it was to no avail. Seeing had undermined their strength and forced them to be obsessed with what they saw. This is from The Fire from Within. They were extraordinary men, powerful sorcerers, somber, driven men who unraveled mysteries and possessed secret knowledge that they used to influence and victimize people. The ancient seers' concern with death made them look into the most bizarre possibilities. The ones who opted for the Allies pattern had in mind, doubtless, a desire for a haven, and they found it at a fixed position in one of the 7 bands of inorganic awareness where they remained. Don Juan warned Carlos Castaneda often about his personal bent to be like those older seers, and yet at the same time he honored them for what they had done. He told Carlos, again from the fire from within, "I never liked them myself, as you know, but I can't help admiring them. Their love for life is truly beyond me. They learned everything by themselves through seeing. Most of the things we know in our lineage were figured out by them. One of the simplest and yet most important findings from the point of view of instruction is the knowledge that man has two types of awareness. The old seers called them the right and the left side of man. The old seers figured out that the best way to teach their knowledge was to make their apprentices shift to their left side, to a state of heightened awareness. Real learning takes place there. Every time we try to come up with a reason for our existence, the answer turns into a matter of beliefs. The old seers took another road. The old seers, risking untold dangers, actually saw the indescribable force which is the source of all sentient beings. They called it the eagle, because in the few glimpses that they could sustain, they saw it as something that resembled a black and white eagle of infinite size. They saw that it is the eagle who bestows awareness. The eagle creates sentient beings so that they will live and enrich the awareness it gives them with life. They also saw that it is the eagle who devours that same enriched awareness after making sentient beings relinquish it at the moment of death. These amazing tenets, founded by the old seers, form the backbone of our lineage today. Yet we modern-day seers don't learn them in the same way. With all their otherworldly prowess, those old seers proved no match for the Spanish conquerors, and a new line of seers began. Keep an eye open for the next video where we talk about the new lineage. Click the button below to join us in Olmec.